Hello everyone, my name is Chromoid and welcome back to Awkward Analysis, where I go and bumble through one of the entries for Tank Wars and kind of try to explore them and see what's going on in them. Today we're going to be reviewing Rock Paper AWOL, submitted by Admiral Titan and Crozeus. And real quick, I want to point out that I didn't get the joke. They had to explain it to me. They're trying to make a team called Rock Paper Scissors, but since they couldn't find either they couldn't find a suitable tank that would represent Scissors, or they just didn't want to. Scissors was absent without leave, so that's why AWOL is in there. I'm very slow and didn't get that. I thought it was a faction name or something. Anyway, just getting that out there. We're going to start off with one of the rocks because they're the bigger tanks, and we'll get to, not rocks, they're boulders, about the same thing, and we'll go over to the missile tanks in a minute. So we have 4 of these boulder tanks, and I think they're the main damage tank of the team. They also are the ones meant to take the damage. They're obviously not the missile tanks, are made mostly of wood. Well, let's get right into it and look at them. So right away we see they have some rails on the side made of exhaust pipes. Now, first thing you need to know is exhaust pipes are very, very cheap. About like, I think the straight pipes are a quarter of material a piece. So you could have 100 of them, and they'll only cost 25 materials. They're very, very cheap. That does mean that they're also very, very weak. They're not strong blocks at all. They're some of the weakest in the game. Like, I think close to glass in their composition. Anyway, when they're not being used to funnel exhaust out of tanks, you can use them to act as triggers for things like heat shells. And I kind of missed this in the last review. Slugfest used much the same thing. When we looked at the slugs, I don't know if you noticed there are a ton of exhaust pipes scattered everywhere, and I thought they were connected to engines, but they weren't. There was only one engine in the slugs. The rest of those exhaust pipes were just space fillers to fill out the rest of the slugs and keep them from spawning heat inside, because heat triggers once it goes through an air gap inside the vehicle. So if it has no air gaps, it'll just keep going and never release the fragments in it. So I think these are roughly the same thing. They also could be there to block other kinds of shells, high explosive, crams, all that will detonate on these rails right here. Now they're not very tall, they just they come to about here. So if you fire about right here over, you can hit this hole right here, or you can hit the turret very easily. But the hole is pretty well protected. You've got these rails to trigger any explosive type weapons basically, or frag weapons. And then behind it is this layer of stone. Let's look at this hole real quick. You've got 1, 2, 3 layers of stone, and then a layer of heavy metal triangles, in this case 2 layers right here, 3 layers, and then ammo. So let's go back here. The ammunition has 1, 2, 3, or 2 in this case, but 2 to 3 layers of stone plus heavy armor triangles. That's a lot of armor. And the reason the triangles are inside, first off, triangles are a lot lighter than standard beams. They don't have as much health, but in this case they're not here for the health. They're here to give their 60 armor value to these stone blocks. Because they're all structural blocks, they'll add armor value to these stone blocks. The stone is not as strong health-wise, but it does have 10 armor per beam. So you've got 1, 2, 3. I don't know the exact calculations for armor stacking with structural blocks, but that's 30 armor right there. I don't know what it comes out to right here. That's a lot of armor, plus the huge armor bonus from the heavy armor behind. That turns out to be a very highly armored block with around 1,320 health. So it's got a lot of armor on it. Wait, did that say 5? Oh, my bad. 5 armor. So that's 15 armor plus the 60 in the back. Anyway, it's a lot of armor. Pretty much any explosive that hits this is going to do minimal damage. These are very heavily armored against explosives. The metal here also gets a lot of armor value. You've got metal all the way through here, so it's very well secured against explosives. Now, penetrating rounds like heat or frags, frags maybe not so much, but sabot kinetic rounds are going to probably punch through this a lot quicker. Not as easily as they might other tanks, but still, it's a very well armored tank. And you've got this trigger gate on the outside, so I'm going to call it trigger gate, to pre-detonate anything like heat or high explosive. So it's got a lot of redundant systems. It's very well made. I also like they have the wheels under here to keep the gates from clipping into the sides and keep the tank from tipping. I'm wondering if it uses oops, turn this on. I wonder if it uses car steering. No, there's nothing there. Let's look here. Yeah, it uses car steering. Sorry, I've got stuff stuck in my throat today. So you can see here we have another case of layered wheels. Of course, you've got a couple on the outside, but those are just to keep the gates from clipping into the ground and causing all kinds of physics issues. They have 1, 2, 3 layers of wheels on each side. And you can see here, the center of the tank is only 1 block wide. The rest of the bottom layer is just wheels. So it's got a ton of wheels. It's probably going to use a lot of that 600 horsepower you see in the bottom right of the screen. Only the inner layer has turning wheels, and they go to about the back quarter of the tank. As we see in most tanks, just the front quarter of the tank uses turning wheels. This means it's going to have that sliding motion we talked about. It's going to have some of the drifting problems. It's going to have some trouble adjusting course very snappily like some of the other tanks have, and it's going to lose some momentum. But because of all the wheels here and these 4 wheels on the outside especially, it's going to have significantly less problems with the tipping and with momentum loss. So it's probably going to be a very fast tank. You watch the battle with them where they fought. I forgot who'd they fight. I've forgotten. But anyway, they've already had a battle once, and they proved to be very, very fast in that battle. So, I mean, I think in this case the car steering isn't going to be necessarily a bad deal. It's just going to be it's going to cause some control issues more than anything else. I think the turret's not going to suffer too much. I think that there's not going to be a lot of tipping, and that's good. There was one thing I'm not too sure about, though. You see right here, I know this is half in the ground. I kind of spawned them a little low, but there's beams all the way through here until you get to right here. And that is the AI card. Oh, it's not. Okay. Just the way that the split is looking, I thought the AI card was just sticking out through the bottom of the tank. I was like, that's really unfortunate. No, actually, that's a heavy armor beam. So all's well. It was a false alarm on my part. They do have repair bots on the underside, which can get blown off very easily if a high explosive hits the ground. But I guess that's not a huge concern. And that's about it for the turret. For the hull. You see, it also used these 4 downforce jets to keep the tank firmly seated on the ground. So it's very well made. I also like the fact they have these wooden blocks on the front. Wood is practically useless against any real big caliber guns in this tournament once again. But you can see they've layered rams on the bottom here. So I think the wood's kind of a low hit point absorbent. It gets repaired very fast. It also dies very fast. So it'll keep this front end, you shoot off these wood blocks, they get repaired very quickly again, and then you shoot them off, and they act as kind of regenerative armor, I think. Also right here, if they lose their rams on the front, then all that's behind them is wood, so you can, hopefully, the next ram will blow all these wood blocks off and reveal the secondary ram in the back here. I think that's a very, very clever design, if that's the way it's intended to work, and I think it is. That's very neat. Hello. Did you put smoke on your beams on your spawn stick? Well, I don't think there's any triggers for it. There's no AI or anything. It's just there. They're just decorative. You cheeky. You people are cheeky. It's not against the rules, but oh well. Anyway, that's enough of that. Just go over this real quick. The AI is encased inside another separate layer of heavy armor. So that means 1, 2, 3 layers of heavy armor plus 1, 2 layers of stone plus the rail. Yeah, that's not getting cored anytime soon. The thing I would worry about is that these ammo barrels are right next to this. Now, heavy armor is one of the few things that will stand up to an ammo barrel detonation. So this is not as lethal as you might think. If this was any other material right here, I would be like, no, that's not good, because that's 1, 2, 3 blocks within the radius of the detonation of an ammo barrel, and it's that will pretty much eradicate your entire tank right there. Still, it's a lot of ammo in the front of a tank. Now, granted, they have a ton of heavy armor protecting it. They've got these stone blocks here, but yeah, that's a good chunk of your tank gone if that goes up. May not be as much. I know I've seen some other tanks with this frontal ammo storage composition, and I've been assured that they don't blow up as easily as you think. And even if they do, they don't damage the tank as badly as you think. But still, just me, my personal preference. I don't like putting my ammo in the front. Granted, you can always be flanked in the rear, but if that happens, then you probably deserve to be shot. Anyway, so sorry. Terrible today. That's pretty much it for the whole. Let's go ahead and take a look at the turret before we move on to the missile tank. Right away we see more of this detection stuff up here, and here's that sneaky laser rangefinder tracker with the input and output being used. So you've got the connector down here with the receiver connected to a laser rangefinder tracker, so at the bottom of the stack, and then they've got a camera gimbal tracker on top, which will work because, as I said before, there's an output on the top of laser rangefinders. It's really clever. I like that. I'm going to go in here and take a look. Okay, we have a 1 meter Omni mantlet. I haven't actually seen, have I? I don't think I've seen an Omni mantlet being used yet. I know there's at least one other use of it in this tournament because I helped with it. Someone needed some advice on something. But yeah, it's interesting. Most people tend to go with either the elevation mantlet because their turret can already traverse, or they go with one of the other larger mantlets. This is an interesting choice. Not a bad choice because, again, 1 meter takes up the least amount of space. It's just that it's Omni means that it can turn left and right as much as it can turn up, as it can elevate up and pass up and down. I can't words today. How do you English? Anyway, I mean, I don't know. I'm kind of I don't know. I guess they wanted to have a little extra traverse so that the cannon could aim as the turret was still turning. I don't know what the thinking was behind that. It is a 250 millimeter cannon, and I don't know what it's packing. Oh, there it is. Because I didn't see it in the hole. I was like, I know it's not in the hole. Here we go. Solid Sabo warheads and a Sabo head on it. So let's look at 250 millimeters. Let's see what that comes to. Pardon me one more time. I swear, I've got something clogged. Alright. We have at 250 millimeters. Round, yeah, that's about what I expected. 8,462 kinetic damage. 44.4 armor pierce. Very fast shell. Not the fastest, but it's still up there. It's close to 900 meters per second. And good armor pierce. I guess anything except heavy armor, once again, going to do full damage. Heavy armor is going to mitigate it by, I want to say 60-75%. So it won't do quite as much to heavy armor, but that's just the nature of the beast. Heavy armor is what it is. It'd be a lot worse if you're using high explosive, trust me. Anyway, it does require 3 meter autoloaders and clips to load these shells because it's so long. And the length is probably because of all these gunpowder components meant to just hurl it as fast as they possibly can. Good trade-off. You know, you get a large turret out of it, unfortunately. It makes it easier to hit, makes it more vulnerable if you don't armor it correctly. But at the same time, you get a very fast shell. It means the accuracy of the tank is very good. The shell goes almost where it points. It's very hard to miss, especially any moving targets. It's hard to miss them with a shell that's going 900 meters per second, especially when they spawn in 800 meters from you. You'll basically hit them in less than a second after firing. And they'll only close range, unless they're in orbit, or they'll close range with you, so you get even less travel time on the shell. It's very good. And that's about it. It's just got a bunch of coolers on the bottom to make sure it can fire very fast. In fact, we'll test the fire rate in just a second here. You've got several autoloaders. I'm not sure. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's 8 autoloaders. And how fast does it reload? It reloads. Okay, 20 seconds. It reloads every 20. Every clip reloads to the autoloader every 20 seconds. So at 8, I would guess. But I guess you could at least get a round per second off. Maybe either 60 to 80 RPM off of this thing. it fires pretty fast, and you've got the double barrel going on, which makes it even, the cooldown a non-issue pretty much with this many coolers. Very, very well constructed turret. Let's go ahead and test it out before I go any further. Go to our friend over here that we were reviewing, and I won't sit on the turret because if you sit on the turret, it will never sit still. Stop. Okay, let's test this gun out. Ooh. Oh, that's some recoil. Okay. Let's look this way then, shall we? Oh, come on. Knocked me straight off the edge. Ugh. Now I'm stuck in the rail. So the rails also double as a chromoid trap. Okay, turn, turn, turn. And now let me get beside you. Here we go. I fired off the side here so we don't knock it all the way back through the spawn stick. And you see right there, I was looking up. The Omni Mantlet gets some good elevation depression. And I guess it's just the ability to turn left and right a little bit also helps it to get on target quicker. Hey, let's fire this off again. Wow. Fire in quick succession, and then they reload. So, not as fast as I was expecting. There's a quick double tap on the gun, but not quite what I was expecting to happen. Let's take a look at it. Let's fire at its friend here. See what happens. Fire right in the front. Okay. Since we're going to do this, let's go do an armor test real quick. We just fired straight through the front of this tank. There's the wood completely disconnected. There's the stone. It only got through one layer of stone. That's how good the armor class on this is. And that was a 44 armor piercing value on those shells. 2 of them. Each of them doing just about 8,500 damage. And it didn't even matter. That's pretty doggone impressive. Well, I think that's it for this one. We'll do one more test here and see how fast they go. And we'll move on to the missile tanks to conclude our review. Alright, let's get moving, Dogie. Full speed ahead. We'll go up here and take a look. Right away, we're already up to 65. This is faster than most tanks go in this tournament. Approaching 68. I think 68.10 is about where it tops off right there. Alright, very, very good acceleration, very good speed on it. Let's see how the turning does. And we can see that sliding motion. It's tipping a little bit, it's tipping, but the rails are keeping it mostly steady. So that's a like I said before, that's a good indicator for the tank. It can fire those shells off without really struggling to keep the turret aimed properly at its target. I'm turning left, I'm turning right. There was a little bounce at the beginning, but that was it. This is a very well-made tank. And just for giggles, I am so sorry, Minimus. We're gonna test what happens when you ram one of these bad boys into the tank. Now keep in mind, I'm ramming a missile tank made of wood, so not the best test, but yeah. I don't know. Leave something to be desired. Then again, ramming physics are kind of weird in this game. But you can definitely do some damage with that tank if it hits another tank. I thought this thing was going to explode. I must have just bounced off the side of it there, but still, very, very good speed, very good acceleration, and a creative solution to the steering problem that you find sometimes. Alright, that's enough of that. Let's get on to the Minimus. I think it's what it's called. Make sure here. Yes, the Minimus 2M. Now, this is an adaptation of a tank from a previous tournament called Panzer IV. And if you haven't watched it, you should go watch it. It's pretty fun to see. It kind of struggled from some production issues, so there were some delays, which meant that the version that's used in later matches is not the same that it started with. And so some of the tanks don't perform as intended. But still, very, very entertaining, and I enjoyed it thoroughly. So this is basically the same hull that you see in the Paper Tanks team from Panzer IV. I don't know if anything's been changed. I never actually reviewed Paper Tanks. In fact, I never reviewed any of the tanks in Panzer IV, but it looks very much the same. What am I doing wrong? Oh, okay. I just Yeah, they're basically paper tanks with a different missile hull. So we'll review the hull first. There's nothing much to it. It's got a metal skirt on the sides to maybe bounce a few low caliber shots or maybe get a lucky ricochet off things. It's got these metal slopes in the front, mostly to keep things from penetrating into these ammo barrels, but it's really just token armor. It's not the strongest. It's all backed by wood. It's 2 layers deep. It's just 1, 2, and the rest is wood. You do have these large cannons, and I'm sorry I can't do anything with those. They're I've got a mod, and that changes these, so don't ignore that. But I think these cannons provide some slight protection for the wheels. I don't know exactly how much armor they have, but they do give a little bonus to the wheels, and they give them a cool look, I think. I think the Minimus also uses, yeah, turning wheels. So in this case, we don't have wheel stacking like we had on the boulders. It's just 2 turning wheels here, and then power wheels all the way back through here. I don't know how fast they go, but being this light, I can't help but think that they're going to fly. Oh, possibly literally. We have the AI right here, and this one does have the AI open to the ground, so any near misses from high explosives, especially things like crams with a very large radius, can travel underneath this and just core the tank. And it'll hit the ammunition too, so not entirely sure how these are just definitely not sturdy at all. 100 horsepower engine, very simple, nothing fancy. And then we get on to the missiles on the top. And these are just, let's see. These are slightly faster than your average missile. They use a variable thruster to give it a little extra speed. Maybe not the fastest missile in the game or in the tournament. If you don't know, variable thrusters, you can change the actual thrust per second that they put out. The 1,000 is where it starts at. That's nominal. But you can increase that all the way up to 10,000. The problem is, the more thrust you put out per second, the more fuel you consume per second. So your missile may fly very, very fast, but it'll run out of fuel in 2 or 3 seconds because it's consuming 10 times the normal amount of fuel. They have decreased the ramp time a little bit. I think it's 1 is where it starts at usually. Ramp time means how long it takes for the missile to actually get up to full thrust. If you decrease it all the way down to 0, it'll start at full thrust immediately. If you put it at 0.5, I think it takes like a half second to get up to full thrust. That means it'll fire a little slow out of the launcher and then launch very quickly. And then we come to something, again, if you've seen the tournament video where these have already fought, you'll have noticed that I think 2 of these blow themselves up the first time they fire. And this is why I think that happens. This combined with the ramp time. You have an arming delay of 0.2 seconds, 0.2 of a second. That's not basically as soon as the launcher fires them, they have 0.2 seconds where they won't detonate on anything, and then they'll explode after that on whatever they hit. Coupled with the fact that they don't start at full thrust immediately, and these tanks are not the slowest. They're pretty fast when they get off the line, so they're moving forward, and then they fire, and these missiles aren't launching at full thrust immediately. I think what's happening is the launchers are catching them after they launch. They're snagging on one of the blocks in here and going down into the tank or the turret and blowing up. And that's not what you want to be doing with your missiles. They're not supposed to hit your own tanks, especially not the one that fired them. That's just that's unfortunate. And they will hit you with a 1-degree frag cone angle and a high explosive warhead. So basically, this warhead will fire a stream of frags about and they will fit within the diameter of that laser beam right there. They're very narrow. It's basically an armor-piercing warhead right here. It's, for lack of a better word, technically the thumper head is the armor piercer, but you can't put most guidance components on missiles with thumper heads, so people tend to just use the frags since they work better. And again, you've got metal and wood up here, mostly just token stuff. You do have some detection. You've got a gimbal visual camera. It can track 360. I think, camera gimbal tracker. It can track 360. It's got pretty good angular bearing. and you've got the laser rangefinder, because I think these are, yeah, these are laser designator missiles. So they'll follow they'll fly towards whatever the laser beams pointed out. And that's pretty much it for the Minimus. Let's test it out a couple times. You'll see here. Get some control going. And we'll just back it on out of here. Nope. You see, it's much more responsive. I'll flip it around here. Oh, as you can see though, they don't have any sort of stabilization, so they flip very easily. And we have this thing. Oh, geez. I was just trying to make a tight turn there, and we were already out of control. So the Minimus have this issue with tipping over. No. I'm trying to control this, and I can't. Stop. There we go. There we go. Okay, let's take a top speed out of this thing before we crash it. Whoops. Stop turning. Yeah, not as fast as the boulders. Definitely not as stable as the boulders. Oh, jeez. Yeah, these are very awkward little tanks. Now, the bumping around is not a big a deal as it would be for a tank with a cannon on it, because missiles, once they fire, don't really care. But I wonder if that jittery motion could have contributed to the fact that these things tend to shoot themselves sometimes. Let's go ahead and do this at risk of my own life. See what happens. Ah! Oh, jeez. And so that's exactly what happened in the tournament too. These things just blow themselves up, and I don't understand why, but not my choice of missile tanks. And you can see they also tend to pop up in the air, so you can't really control them. Same kind of problem we saw with or what was it that had the same issue. I just reviewed it. Anyway, I can't remember, but there was another tank we just reviewed that had the exact same issue with it, and you just couldn't control it because, like, there you see, the front wheels, which are the steering wheels, are off the ground. And, yeah, that's not going to be very helpful in a battle. It's just going to end up going one way and not being able to change directions. Let's shut you down here. There we go. But that's it for the rock, paper, AWOL team. I hope you guys enjoyed this review. If you did, comment, leave a like. It doesn't really matter, but it is nice to know that people enjoy it. And I hope you guys stay, well, whatever. I told you this is awkward analysis. I don't do well with words. But anyway, thank you guys for watching. And until next time, I've been Chromoid. And I'll see you guys whenever I see you.